Hey, how you doing? I thought it might be nice to watch a fight, but this time I thought it might be nice to watch a good fight. So instead of doing a reaction to just any old fight, what I've done is I've picked a really good one and I'll just talk you through what I see when I watch it. This is the final of the 2018 Billy Robinson World Catch Wrestling Championships that were held at the Snakepit, USA, between Harry Smith and Dave White. So before we get into the kind of the nitty gritty of the fight itself, we're going to talk a little bit about Harry. I'd love to talk about Dave White because clearly he's a great grappler. He's got through to the final and he puts up a really good showing. He's got clearly some sort of background in wrestling. From his stance, I suspect freestyle or folk style. I don't really know. He could be a jiu-jitsu guy as well, but he's got that kind of very low, very forward facing. He's very good at shooting in. He's you'll see. He's clearly a great fighter. Harry, on the other hand, is a pro wrestler. You may know him as Davey Boy Smith Jr. He's fought in the WWE and the UWF, all over the place in World of Sport over here in the UK. He is probably as close to wrestling royalty as you can get. He's the son of Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, who was regarded as one of the greatest wrestlers in the world when he was at his peak. He's also the son of Diana Hart from the very, very famous wrestling Hart family. So, if anybody has a glorious pedigree in pro wrestling, it's Harry. But it's not just pro wrestling. You can see from what he's wearing, he's very much repping the Japanese catch wrestling world. He's got his Sakuraba IQ Fighter shorts on and what I think is a UWF t-shirt. I'm not sure, we'll see when he starts to move around. Harry trained with Billy Robinson quite a bit when Billy was alive, and he was one of the few people to be accredited as an assistant coach in the scientific wrestling program by Billy himself. He trains with Josh Barnett, and as we watch this video you'll be able to hear Josh coaching Harry from the sidelines, because whilst Harry's got vastly more pro wrestling experience than almost anyone out there, when it comes to submission wrestling and actually getting out and competing at that top level, there aren't many people who've got more experience than Josh. The two of them are great friends, and you'll see. I want to tell you a story about when I met Harry as well, so apologies, this is going to be a ridiculously long video, we haven't even started yet. Some years ago, Marty Jones invited me along to a big wrestling convention in London, just for the day. He was there as one of the guests, and he'd organised for a bunch of the old school World of Sport guys to go down. Mal Saunders, Johnny Saint himself. Quite a lot of these guys that I watched on TV when I was a kid. And Marty thought I'd like to go, and he was absolutely right. I had a fantastic time. It was great to see them. I just kind of hung out in the corner of the convention centre with a bunch of my childhood heroes. But Harry was there too, and I'd not met Harry at this point, so I went over to introduce myself to him because we've got some mutual friends, and I thought it'd be cool. And I kind of wanted to meet him because, bit of a fanboy. I was wearing a T-shirt that I'd made myself. There's a really quite a famous picture of Billy Robinson in his wrestling stance with his trunks on, and I turned it into a bit of a silhouette and had that printed on a T-shirt. So it was literally just black printing on a T-shirt. And I was chatting to Harry, a lovely guy, and he said, "I really like your T-shirt. Where did you get it?" And I said, "Actually, I made it, so it's kind of the only one." I said, "But I can make another one. That's not a problem." And he's like, "Oh, that'd be great if you could." He was wearing a Davey Boy Smith Jr. T-shirt, and I said to him, "Well, look, I can always make another one. So why, what size T-shirt do you wear?" I mean, the man is huge. He's a giant, like 6'7", something like that, and he's pretty ripped. He said, "Oh, extra large," because he likes to show off his muscles, whereas I wear an extra large to hide the fact that I don't have any. But I said, well, look, why don't we just swap T-shirts then? You know, and then you've got the T-shirt and I can print myself another one up. And he said, yeah, great idea. So we're stood in this massive convention centre in the centre of London, and he's got his little table out with all his photos and his merch and stuff there, and there's a queue of people going back the entire length of the hall waiting to come and see him, to get their photo taken with him and to get a signed picture and all this stuff. And literally he just strips his T-shirt off and I do the same, and we swap T-shirts, and it's just like, it was a bit of a surreal experience, to be honest with you. But, you know, it was lovely, and he's a lovely guy, and I'm glad I met him, and that was before this. And here we're going to see how Harry's pro wrestling from a catch background racks up against a very skilled fighter who I'm pretty sure has a freestyle background, but has done a few other things as well. So let's just watch it. I'm going to pause it a lot, and I'm going to talk a lot about what they're doing and what I see, and try and explain what's going on, because it does give you a very different flavour from some of the grappling stuff that you see in the UFC or mixed martial arts, or in pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's just dive in and have a look, shall we? Okay, so we start off, nice little shake of the hands there. Now this is something you see, if you watch some of the earlier fights, you see that this is something Dave White does quite often. He goes for that 2-on-1 and he drops his weight down on it and pulls the other person down in order to try and get them to pull up, and when they do, he turns it into a drag and shoots in and goes for a takedown, and it worked quite well a number of times in the semi-finals, but obviously Harry was watching that and knows what's going on. So what he's doing at this point is Dave White's got hold of Harry's left wrist with both of his, and Harry's just putting a little bit of pressure over the top and just putting a little bit of rotational force through it to try and stop that from happening. But we'll see, because Dave's got a pretty fast takedown. Okay, so he's taking a little arm drag there. He's still got hold of that wrist, and Harry's letting him, which is a little unusual, but he's not doing anything with it. There you go, beautiful little shoot. But this is one of the problems with non-submission wrestling against submission wrestling. This guy clearly is skilled, and he's dropped down, he's gone for the penetration step, he's cleared some space, he's gone in, he's taken the leg, and in doing so he's gone for that head outside single, and he's walked straight into a guillotine. And this isn't a particularly catch wrestling move that Harry's pulling off here, but you know, it's there. Why wouldn't you take it? And take it he does. And he drops back. We'll refrain from saying he pulls guard, but he sits back and hooks the leg to try and see if he can get a finish with that guillotine. He's almost certainly not going to. My suspicion is that Harry's arms are just way too big to get into the space that he's being given by Dave White here. So what we're going to see now is Harry's going to try and finish this as quickly as he can. There you go. He's unhooked. You can see he unhooked the leg in order to try and roll Dave Smith over, but as soon as he did unhook it, Dave kicked his legs over. Let's just go back and watch that bit again. I mean, we see what's going on with the legs here. Harry's got Dave Smith's left leg pinned, and he's trying to put the guillotine on, and as soon as he unhooks that leg to try and flip Dave over, Dave just spins out of the guillotine, and they're broken away. Okay, and that, I suspect, was not what Harry was expecting. This guy is good. He's gone straight for the pin. As soon as he can, you can see he's got his hips right up, and he's on his feet, and he's driving his weight down, trying to get Harry's shoulders on the ground. And Harry is a little taken aback by that, but doesn't lose his cool. So he's rolling onto his right hand side to keep his shoulder off, and he's coming over onto his front. And this is one of the interesting things, that catch wrestling has a bit of an ongoing argument within the community as to whether chokes and strangles are allowed in catch wrestling. The clear consensus is both yes they were and no they weren't, which is pretty accurate really, because in some instances they were and in some instances they weren't. Some fighters were incredibly skilled at using them. You know, Ed Lewis didn't get his name by chance. So yeah, going over onto your front without protecting your neck can be a little bit tricky. But we'll see. See straight away here that Harry's attempting to secure him and roll him over, but Dave's closing in. He's got a good grip around the neck. He's posting, and now Harry's come into that turtle position, this low defence position. Dave's trying to get his hooks in. Harry's going to stop him. Now, from a personal perspective, I find this is a really, really difficult kind of position to end up in, because it's very easy to get there and it's very easy to settle in. And as long as when you get down in that turtle, you're keeping your chin tucked in, you've got your elbows tight to your knees, and you're kind of covering, and you're moving this, and you're blocking low, you're blocking high, you're not letting them get more than one limb in, then it's very easy to kind of fall into the habit of thinking they're not pinning you, they're not submitting you, therefore it's okay. But the fact is that if you're underneath, you are still carrying their weight and you are still having to work for this. So what you need to be doing is looking for those moments where you can explode out of this and you can reverse it. There are some people out there that are fantastic at attacking from within the turtle. I'm not, and from what I've seen, I'm not sure Harry is, but he is a very strong and a very big explosive fighter, and what he's going to be looking for at this point is a situation where he's got control of one or two of his opponent's limbs. And this is one of the nice things about letting somebody get a hook in, that as long as it's only that one hook, they're not going to do an awful lot with that. But that foot is now out of the equation. You cannot post on that limb, and that's taken away a whole 90 degree of the circle around you that you can defend within, because that's what that leg is for. You use it to post, to defend, to stop yourself from being rolled. So if Harry can tie up his left arm as well as his left foot, then he should be able to just simply flip him over and explode straight out of this. And that's exactly what we're looking for him to do. So he's trying to get that foot in. There you go. He lifts him up, pops the foot in. See, now here you go. As soon as that's in, there we go. And what was going to happen there, I don't know, because the referee stopped it. They've come off the mats right into almost into the ring that's at the side. Just a quick shout out to the chap filming in the White Sox. That's Chris Crossan, who runs Legit Pro Wrestling up in the Northeast. Fantastic guy, fantastic wrestler. If you get the chance to train with him, do. Okay, so back into the centre.
Back up, all right. All right.
And we go again. Now this time it's quite interesting. You can see at this point that Harry has learned. There we go, straight for this. He's not going to let his opponent get that dominant 2-on-1 grip anymore. Harry's a bigger, stronger man, and he's going to use that to his advantage. He's going to get some weight, and he's going to make him carry his weight a little bit. So let's see what happens with it. It's a really classic collar and elbow tie up, and this is quite an interesting thing here. You see this quite a lot, and this coming round and holding under the tricep with your elbow grip does allow you some movement in getting their arm out, so you can potentially come underneath and take the back. But what it doesn't do is allow you an awful lot in the way of throws from that position. And one of the things that Billy Robinson was very keen on was throws from this clinch, whether it's an over and under or a collar and elbow. There's all sorts you can do there, and it's heavily influenced by French wrestling, Greco-Roman, because there was quite a bit of that going through the snake pit. That was Kalgotcha's background originally, and Billy picked up a lot of that and was incredibly good at it, and that's what he taught. And I think that's exactly why Harry's gone to this. Plus, it's a very classic pro wrestling position, isn't it? I mean, they normally kind of flow in, they bang into it with a big thumb, and they push each other away, and it's all big and theatrical. But the position is genuine, it works, it's effective, and it's a great way to set up throws and takedowns. See, Harry had a very different grip altogether there. He was just lightly hooked over the forearm with this, and he wasn't pulling on it or holding it or squeezing it. He was just feeling that pressure and being able to move around and being able to react to it. But at this point, you can hear Josh telling him what to do, and Harry's clearly setting something up now. He's peeling that hand off the back of the head. And as he does that, there's going to be a little spill.
Got that underhook. Use it, Harry.
Now there's another beautiful. He's got that. He's gone for the overhook. Harry's come for the underhook. Dave's got the overhook, and he's put in the whizzer. He's trying to really disrupt that clinch, and you can see it's working to a degree. He's putting a lot of pressure through Harry's arm, getting him up on his toes, but it's not going to faze him because he's a monster.
Good, Harry. Use it. Body locks. Change levels. Change levels and get your grip.
He wants to pull the hips in.
Good. Suck his hips up. Suck his hips up. Suck his hips up.
Freeze.
Now, that's an interesting one there, is that it looked very much to me, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Dave White was literally almost purposefully backing out of the arena to prevent Harry from getting that body lock in place, because from there you'd be looking at a suplex, and I promise you don't want to get suplexed by Harry Smith.
All right. First warning. Back in center.
Okay, so there's been an official warning, and they start again.
Go, Harry. Forward, forward. Good stance. You're in a ready stance. Always ready, Harry.
He's gone back to that 2-on-1 on the wrist, so he's going to shoot in again any second.
Good.
Again, Harry's
good.
gone for the
Sprawl, sprawl,
This
sprawl.
is a little bit different.
Good, good.
What we see now is as Harry came for the sprawl, instead of just dropping his weight on him, he put that left hand in as a crossface and turned Dave's face round. And this is a really classic catch move. This is something that Billy taught a lot. This is something that Marty Jones teaches very much. It's kind of worked its way into pro wrestling, and people write it off because they see it as a pro wrestling move, but this is actually a phenomenally effective move. In freestyle, folk style wrestling, you quite often see people just using it as a way to rotate the head to try and make the person move. In catch wrestling, it's used as almost a pain control move. Marty, when I first trained with him, said that you should never pass up the opportunity to hurt your opponent. And we're drilling a very, very similar technique to this. We were looking at a crossface from what is effectively a high defence. So you're looking at trying to get there, taking the far shoulder, and hopefully then you can control them and move them around. We'll come on to that in a second. But what he said to do was almost to come in and punch to the side of the face and then drive the bone, the radial styloid, that little bony bit there on the side of your wrist across the face. Because it's far more effective.
This is a lock. A face lock, not a face grab, not a face slight molestation. This is, face lock.
But what we can see, it's not just that Harry's doing that. He's really punched that in. He's got some force through it, and he's taken that shoulder, and he's putting some real pressure through Dave's face at this point. But what Dave's natural reaction will be is to rotate out of this. But you can see at this point that what Harry's doing is effectively stopping him from doing that. He's got his left leg spragged out, giving him that big, long base, that buttress that he's driving his weight through his wrestling boots. And he's got his other knee right up against them, so he can't shuffle out that way either. So this is effectively just becoming a form of legal pain. But it does develop, and it develops very quickly. So we're going to watch this next bit several times.
Good, turn in with it.
So he's trying to get it off. Harry comes in here. He's going through to try and take the wrist from inside. And again, there's a very interesting point here. If you've grappled or wrestled at any point, you'll have come across the concept of an arm roll. And effectively, when somebody is on top of you, as Harry is there, what you can do is you can reach back and you can hook around their elbow. So Dave's left hand will hook just over the elbow of Harry's left arm. Once you've isolated that, you can then roll, you can explode into a rotational thing, and your opponent will roll off you, and you hopefully then end up on top. Either way, you escape this position. The worst case scenario is you have a bit of a scramble. So one of the things that Billy Robinson was incredibly keen on, and he had certain things that he really focused on and were very important to him. One of them was this, in that when you're doing that, you always use a short arm. You never put your arm in deep. Because as soon as you put your arm in deep, you give the other person the opportunity to roll you, and you don't want to be rolled because you want to be on top. And again, you can see that Harry's got this beautiful pressure building through here. He's got one arm round, he's trying to get hold of Dave's left arm. He's got his other arm, we can't quite see what's going on there, but I think he's probably attacking the same arm. He's got his left leg out to give him this big triangular buttress, and his right knee is in close, blocking the hips to stop him from moving. So what that basically means is that Harry's attacking an arm, but as soon as Dave is not using those arms to hold himself, Harry's weight is going to push him into the mats, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to make him carry his weight, put him through quite a lot of pain while he's doing it, and also attack his arms at the same time, give him many different things to think about, and it just gives you a slightly better chance that you'll get away with one of them. But Dave has quite an interesting little tactic to counter that, as we'll see in a second.
Don't be in a hurry, Harry. Put the weight on him. That's it.
There you go. So here you see that what Dave's done is he's popped that out, so he's resting on his left elbow here, which means that the weight is still going through his skeletal structure into the mat. He's not carrying it, but that's allowed him to bring his other hand in to take hold of Harry's arm, and you can see straight away by doing that, Harry's left arm has gone a little bit deeper, which is potentially a mistake, because if Dave can secure that hand, which it looks like he has, he can then move his left arm up to get that elbow, hook that, and get the arm roll. And that's exactly what we see him try for at this point here. But yeah, straight away, they're probably a little bit sweaty here, and just that little bit of sweat just allows you to pop that arm out. And we're back to that same position. Now Harry's in a dominant position. He's forcing his opponent to carry his weight, mainly. His right knee's still on the ground, which isn't ideal, but you can understand why. This guy is quick, he's fast, he's a bit slippery, and he's a good fighter. So Harry's doing everything he can at this point to block him. Let's see how it moves on. Okay, so this is quite interesting. So Dave has started going for Harry's right arm now, because you can arm roll in any direction. It doesn't matter which way. Whichever arm you take, you can roll them in that direction. So what Harry's doing is he's bringing his weight round a little bit to make him heavier, to make it harder to roll, and it's a much harder job. But at the same time, he's getting his left hand in and he's threatening that stranglehold across the neck, which is forcing Dave to react to that. And what that allows Harry to do at that point
Elevate the ankle when you can.
is to reach back with his right hand and take hold of Dave's ankle. Because as soon as Harry has got control of two limbs, he's effectively got pure control, because you can't defend from being flipped if somebody's got control of two of your limbs, and that's exactly what Harry's going for here. So Dave has to do something about that. He has to clear that ankle. There are two ways he can do that. He can either reach down and peel the hand off, or he can kick his leg out backwards and try and pop the hand off. You can see that he brings his foot up and peels that off. And as he does that, he's still focusing, he's still looking very much at this stranglehold, and he puts his own foot up, because that does two things. Firstly, it stops Harry from being able to reach down and take his ankle again. Because clearly, if somebody's reaching down to take your ankle, they've got a plan in mind. You don't want them to have your ankle, but they want to have your ankle, so you put your ankle out of their way. However, one of the things Billy Robinson always used to say is, show them 3 doors, close 2 of them in the face, and wait behind the third. And that's exactly what Harry has done here, is that he's attacking the arm, he's attacking the neck, and he's attacking that ankle. And as Dave has moved that leg up to try and bring the ankle out of Harry's reach and to brace against his weight, what he's unfortunately done for himself is he's taken away his ability to stop Harry from rolling him. And what Harry's going to do now is he's simply just going to set him up. He's going to lift him and sit him backwards and roll him down into, hopefully, a pin.
2 minutes.
Now look at that. No effort at all. Because that leg was out the front, there was nothing to stop him being rolled backwards. So Harry just literally picked him up, rolled him backwards, moved around and dropped on top. Now, you'd have thought a pro wrestler would be really good at pinning. But this guy's slippery and Harry struggles a little bit at this point. We could go into all sorts of detail as to why, and we could look at Wade Shellers' rules for pinning. But the fact is that it's not quite as easy as he was hoping for.
Reach between his legs.
He's trying very hard to stop him rolling into him.
Daylight.
It's
Chest to chest.
going to be difficult.
Cross sprawl. Good.
And there you go, straight away. Now you see that Dave has effectively escaped the pin. But just like we were saying before, Harry happens to be hiding behind the door that he's just walked through. And he's got that cross face in place again, but this time, instead of just being across the front of him, he's got a hand behind him as well, and he's able to get his hands together in that lovely tight grip, and he's able to squeeze that in tight and put some real force through this. And what he should be able to do is roll him round and sit him up again. Let's see.
Lock it up.
See, now, I've watched this bit a few times, and that looks really very much like a tap to me. And I've done it, and I'm sure other people have, that when you're rolling, you'll literally, it isn't a tap, you just hit hard to try and either give yourself some momentum, some move, or just to get rid of some of that horrific pain. This is a horribly painful thing to do. You can see that what Harry's got is, when you put this on, you put it on with a flat surface, the inside surface of the wrist, and then you roll that round, and that does two things. One, in rolling, it reduces the amount of space within the circle that the face is, so it actually pushes harder. And it also reduces the surface area of your arm that's in contact with your opponent's face. And when we increase the force and we decrease the surface area, we significantly increase the pressure. And at this point, I promise you that Dave White is incredibly uncomfortable. There's a vast amount of pressure going through his face. And what Harry's attempting to do at this point is bring his neck all the way around as far as he can, so he's got his chin across his shoulder here. We're going to talk about neck anatomy and physiology in a second because it's quite important. He's setting up a very, very effective, absolute classic catch wrestling neck crank. There we go. And that was the point of no return. What Harry's attempting to do, and we'll go back and watch that again so you can see it, is that as he rolls him round, he's watching his hips. And as soon as his opponent's hips go past vertical, Harry starts driving his way up. And we'll go back and watch it. In fact, let's slow it down and watch that a little bit slower.
Good.
Yeah, so the crossface comes on, he picks him up, rolls him around, watch his hips. As soon as his hips go past vertical, Harry comes up onto his feet and he drives his weight forwards. And that's the killer. The rotational force of the face lock and the twist of the chin round is just setting up the crank. That is not the crank. And in competition, people that have experienced neck cranks will not tap to that. But the fact is, there are a number of systems within the anatomy of your C-spine, your cervical spine, the first 7 vertebrae, the ones that come from the base of your skull to the top of your chest. And they allow a vast array of movements when they're used together. So you've got flexion and extension, you've got lateral flexion and extension, you've got rotation. And when you put all those together, you get this almost free movement. But the fact is, if you rotate the neck to its absolute maximum point of rotation, what you do is you lock up the C1, C2 joint, where a significant part of the rotation happens. But you also lock up all the individual facet joints. The vertebrae have a little sort of flange sticking out from the back, and the others have a little flange sticking up. And these move around a little bit, but when you twist them, these actually lock into place, and every vertebrae then locks. And at that point, once you've got full rotation, you cannot flex the neck. You can try this yourself. Get your neck all the way round, and without taking that off, try and just put your ear just a little bit down, and you'll feel straight away. Now imagine that a man who weighs 140 kilos, sort of up to 300 pounds, is driving his body weight into your neck while you're doing that. And you can see why Dave tapped straight away. So let's just go back and watch it again, because it's beautiful. So he loses the pin, he takes the cross face, he sets him up, he rotates him. As soon as his hips comes up, he drives forwards and he's there immediately. And that is absolutely pure catch.
The pressure helps us to turn him, and then look at my feet, what I'm doing. I give myself space. I can be up on one foot, and my shoulder is driving forward as my lock is sucking up like this with short arms.
We're a long way into this video now. I don't know how long it is. You know, we've only watched 3.5 minutes. We've only watched round 1 of 2. But I'm going to stop there. If you've enjoyed it and you want me to go through round 2, then do stick something in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to. This is exactly the sort of video that I watch all the time. And I think it's a lot of fun. I think the most telling point, just look at Dave's face in this. You know, there's just that, oh my God, what did you just do to me? Look, and there's a certain reaction that you get from somebody. Sometimes it's quite rare, but when you're demonstrating a particularly nasty submission hold, and you put it on and they tap and come out, and then they smile and laugh, and if they do that, you know that they're one of yours, they're one of your people. Catch is known affectionately as the violent art, and it's for reasons like this. I firmly believe that now leg locks have become pretty generic in BJJ, and wrist locks are becoming pretty widespread. I think the next big thing that's going to sweep through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is neck cranks, and I think this is the sort of thing you're going to see a lot. And people are going to complain a lot. They go, "Oh no, don't want that. That was a crank." I've been told off for it because they're just there, much like the wrist locks. You know, they're always there all the time. Just reach down, take the head, crank the neck, and people go, "Oh no, more of a crank than a strangle." It's like, yeah, but you tapped. Anyway, thanks very much for sticking with me all this way in. I hope this has been of some entertainment or some use to you. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Stick something in the comments, like the video, share it somewhere. That'd be pretty cool. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Fight team.